So we will talk about privatization in India today. I have created a series of videos before, but that was not in English. So I thought I would create a few videos to inform about the subject. There is going to be attempt now by the government to privatize as many sector as it can. For example, then railway, etc., etc. Uh, so now there are lots of misconception uh, uh, about this privatization, what it is really. So let us look into the economy. So our economy has two parts. One is public sector, that is the government sector, and private sector. And let's say this is our government of India. It comprises of all the ministers and bureaucrats and all the people who makes laws and etc. Who governs us. Now those people has authority uh, uh, to the entire economy. So they are in charge of public sector as well as private sector, right? So the misconception regarding privatization comes from the fact that we used to think our economic ideas all stems from the fact that we do little bit of financial calculations to to maintain our household, right, our grocery and etc. And all our thoughts and concepts come from that aspect. So we used to view everything as ours and not ours, right? Not ours. So the things that are yours, you have entire privilege to do whatever you want to do with them, with it. And let's say you have one bank account and you have some money on that account, and it is your money, so you can spend it the way you see fit. But if that money is in somebody else's account, then you cannot spend it. So as we are used to see things this way, that is ours and not ours, we also start to apply the same knowledge on government. So we see, okay, government has companies, it has, let's say, banks, SBI, etc. It has railways and all other companies, right? And so it seems like this is government's thing, and this is something that government has no authority over. But is it true? Probably not. Why? Although these private sector entities, government does not own them, but government can make as many laws to govern and regulate those things. So in a way, this household concept, that is ours and not ours, does not directly apply to government. So government actually is in charge of entire economy. Hmm. And now privatization means transferring companies from the public sector to here private sector, right? But as we were discussing, even if a company is in private sector, government has a lot of authority over it. How? We will first discuss that one. Now, as I was saying, our bureaucrats and ministers, they used to see private sector as if it is their own property. uh, let's give some example. Let's say how. that is not a good thing. First of all, that is a very very bad thing. But we will discuss it how government always interfere in the workings of private sector by making rules and regulations, etc. Let's give this example. Let's say manufacturing, right? So we all know. Let's say this is our country, and when COVID-19 hit us, what happened? Government was in a hurry to procure lot of PPE kits, ventilators and etc. Ventilators, all medical equipment, masks, masks. So, so what government? So as there were requirements, previously these things were not produced in our country in large amounts. But as there were requirements and hospitals, they were in urgent need. So what happened? We are a large country, so here and there, people started to manufacture them. Let's say this is one manufacturer. He bought one machine and started producing things. Now, now government was supposed to procure these things, PP kits, ventilators, masks. So what it did, it just closed the market. That means nobody can nobody can export anything. Nobody can export any PP kits or ventilators or masks. So what happens? Let's say this is one manufacturer. He somehow managed to buy one machine and started producing PP kits, ventilators. Let's say if he sold that thing that he produced outside India. Let's say he was supposed to earn 10 crores, right? But government, as it has banned all exports and etc. Now there are lots of PP kits, ventilators inside our country, and now government can procure it in 8 crore, and it started to supply it in low cost, right? So so what we have seen, those companies government does not own, but still it can force them so that government can procure in less cost. So those authorities are there. Uh, but question is that a good thing? That somebody might ask, is that a good thing? It is a very very bad thing, right? Why? Because apparently it might seem well, it worked, because as we banned export, then government can now buy things in less price and it can supply to the hospital, all the healthcare facilities. But if we think carefully, it was a huge loss. Why? Let's say this is our another country, It has also private sector, public sector, and all private public sector. And let's say this country has one manufacturer, and the government of that country allowed this manufacturer to export. So it earned 10 crore, 10 crore. It creates 2 crore profit, and within a month, it bought another manufacturing machine. And as time goes by, it started to add machines, and now all of a sudden, after some time, it would have 20 such machines, right? Now what will happen? It will procure its raw material in large quantities, and as we all know, if we procure in large quantities, things like cost starts to come down, so it can now spend less and uh, produce in large quantities, and it can also charge less price. So it becomes very competitive. The manufacturer in the other country too, let's say. Now, what will happen? So here in our country, government will after some time government will realize that there is no need of this restriction. It will ease that restriction. It will dismantle that boundary, artificial boundary. Now that time, our exporter it cannot compete anymore with the competitor from country two, because it has one machine. It costs are not like its input costs are large, and it cannot compete price wise with the its competitor, because its competitors has become large. It has 20 machines. It has also employed 30 people. So what will happen? All the manufacturers in our country, one or two machines each one had, they will start to go out of business. They, let's say this one had employed two people. They said, okay, from tomorrow you don't have to come. So we don't have now any job. Also, we don't have any manufacturing facility. So what will happen? So if this exporter, if government had allowed it to export, it could have earned some money and bought another machine and employ few more people, and it could have grown, and government could have earned money in the form of tax, and government could have spent that money on healthcare, right? It could have. So the loss is everybody's. It will seem that loss is only the loss is incurred by only the exporters, but it is not like that. Loss is everybody's loss, because if government cannot earn that money, it cannot spend it on healthcare. If those few people who were working as laborers, if the company shuts down, they don't have jobs. So it is a lose-lose situation for us. So this example is only to demonstrate that how the interference by government is prevalent in our private sector as well. So that is one example. There are lots of other examples as well. For example, I can think of in West Bengal, what government does. Government regulates the fare fare of bus fare, right? What it does, it says, let's say you are a private bus owner. Government has specified that you can charge, I don't know the exact amount, let's say 5 rupees per kilometer, right? And after doing that, the owner of the bus, now he has no real incentive to give any good facility to its customers, to his customer, because it doesn't matter, right? Because government has fixed the price. The only objective now this bus owner has to run the bus using as low, spending as low amount as possible. So he will never install an AC in his bus. He will never install a charger in his bus to charge mobile phone. He will never hook up with um, any online company to give some facility to its customer, or to his customer. For example, sending messages when the bus is late and etc. So all those industries around the bus transportation facility, like AC, charger, these are small industries, because if, let's say, if there are 5 lakhs bus in a state, and all buses have this charger, AC, etc., etc., all those online facilities, then that creates additional industries, and a lot of people get a job there as well. But now nothing happened. So there is mere a bus, only 4 wheels, and just a platform on top of it. And it charges very minimal amount, But if there are 30 seats, at least 70 people just they 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 use the bus at a time. So this is huge crowded and etc. And no new investment is coming as well, because now this person is fearful that he cannot buy another bus. He cannot incur more losses. So government interferes. The point was that even if a sector is a private sector, government interferes a lot. So as if government sees this private sector as its own property, although government is not owner of this private sector. So from that sense, the household concept, that if something is yours, you have exclusive right on it, and if something not yours, you don't have any right on it. This concept does not apply directly to our economy, because government is in charge of our entire economy, not only this public sector, not only this public sector. So from here, so we have seen that government has authority over private sector as well. Now let's open another page. Let's open another page and let's draw this figure again. So public sector and private sector. Private sector. So government, as I was saying, government is in charge of the entire economy. But then what is the difference? Difference is the companies that are in public sector, let's say SBI or banks and all, railway, government is the owner. Government is the owner of, owned by government. These companies owned by government. Now, when government is owner, the level of interference is even higher, lot higher. We'll give some example. Let's say railway. So, of course, government is owner. So it says, well, you cannot increase the passenger fare. So let's say passenger fare, you cannot increase. It says to government says to our railway. Now, but somehow railway has to run. It has to earn some money to provide, to give salary to its employee, and it has lots of other costs as well, like electricity, etc., maintenance. So what is the solution? Government says, well, you cannot charge passengers but more, but somehow you have to earn. Well, then you do one thing, you you increase the freight fare, like cargo and all, like the goods. So now our transportation cost is now a lot higher, because government has increased, like not government but railway has increased the freight fare. Now as the transportation cost is high, why? First of all, why? Because government does not want to increase passenger fare, because passengers are electorate. They elect government. And government has taken easier route to make them happy. So it says, okay, passenger fare, we will not increase passenger fare. So everybody is happy. Everybody is happy, and they will elect the government next time. We will discuss this later. But here, goods are being transported. Goods does not give vote, so it doesn't matter. But the effect will suffer, will all suffer due to this decision. We will see why. Because let's say in our country there are lots of transportation was going on, transportation of raw material, industrial goods, and etc. from here to there, here to there. Now, as this fare increases, so is the transportation cost. Now, as our transportation cost is high, transportation cost, transportation cost, actually goods transportation cost. Goods transportation cost is high. So our competition is with our other countries, with other countries. So they have also their public sector, private sector, etc. Now their transportation cost is low. So well, what the companies are saying, okay, manufacturers, they say, okay, it's all right. We'll go to that other country. C2. We'll manufacture everything because their cost is low. They can hire people with lot less regulation. Their labor code is not so stringent as ours. So they said, okay, we'll transfer it to Vietnam. Vietnam, or let's say Malaysia, like Malaysia, Vietnam, China. Now they are producing everything, starting from your slipper, chappal to everything, your toothbrush, everything, and they again start to export here. So it is, the loss is ours because our children, our people won't get job in manufacturing, our laborers. Also, government won't get any tax. So tax is now less. So it can spend less on people, the education, healthcare, etc. So ultimate loser are this group of people who were very happy seeing the passenger fare is less. Because so in a way, that interference, as government owns railway, it can interfere even more like this, and it can screw our economy like this way. Banking also, we all know, right? Like, so there is SBI or any other public bank. Or say, okay, government says, okay, give loan to this group of people. I don't know, maybe farmers, or but somebody might say, okay, that is a good thing. We'll come to that later as well. That is out of good intention at least. But we will see that government cannot do good by doing this sort of things, by doing anything at all. Like if government try to do anything at all, it becomes a harmful thing. We will discuss that. Government should just sit tight and do nothing. But we will come to that. But let's say there is another person, friend of a government minister, or government prefers this person. So government instruct bank, okay, issue loan so that he can do this project. That is one sort of a corruption. So that things also happen. For example, we will see. So there are private banks as well, right? In our country, if we see market caps and all, SBI is pretty low market cap, pretty low. On the other hand, if we move SBI to private sector, you know how could what could be its market cap? It can be in the order of 500 billion. 500 billion. So our economy is only 2.9 trillion, let's say. That means how much? 2,900 billion. Only one company market cap could have been 500 billion. Could have been. Because if we see the private bank, SBI is much larger than those private banks, 10 times larger than HDFC. in terms of customers, in terms of value also 4 times larger, but its market cap is much higher than SBI. So if we do the math, we can see that SBI can become a 500 billion company if we just move it to private sector. So that, because government don't have any intention to make profit, and that's why nobody trusts these public banks. Nobody want to invest in them, because everybody knows that government's intention is not to make profit. Rather, its intention is to serve people. We will discuss these things later, whether that is a good thing or bad. But that's the picture now. So, what privatization means? Privatization means transferring companies from public sectors to private sectors. Does it mean those companies will become independent? Nah, not in our country. So let's say railway, bank. So let's say we move it from here to here, or this one. Let's say move it from here to here. So argument is why to move from here to here, so that they become profitable. Somebody might ask, are not they making profits? Yeah, they are making profits, but not to that extent, not according to their capabilities. They can make much more profit if they are in private sector. Why? Because one thing is the government interference. Government does not want to profit, it just want to serve people. And second thing is the inherent inefficiency, because uh, when an industry is in public sector, we all know, right, like how they recruit people. Once you are working in a public sector, there is really very less incentive for you to work hard, because your promotion and etc will not depend on your efficiency or your productivity, rather how long you have been working for that company. So you work for 10 years, you become years, and you get one promotion, like that. And also their selection criteria is also outdated, right? For example, let's say this is a bank, how they are selecting. Lots of people are studying for banking exams. No value in that though. Those are not real skill that is required for this, to serve people in a bank. Hmm. Let's say I'll give one example. Let's say this is SBI. Hmm. This is SBI. Now let's say this is a person. He somehow he somehow write code, collect all the data somewhere from people. Let's say from people, from news. Let's say he is also good in statistics and math. He created one software, very good programmer. He said, okay, this can pinpoint whom to give sanction loan and how much amount. Now, do you think SBI will recruit him? No. If you want to do job in SBI, they will say, okay, sit for this dumb exam, solve some 10th level math, or some English or something, and if you get qualified, we'll recruit you. Even if they recruit, and of course, if this guy is so intelligent, then probably he will charge, I don't know, he will charge maybe 10 to 20 lakhs per month, 10 lakhs, let's say, per month. Of course, SBI is not going to give him that much money. So, but private sector bank, if it's a private sector bank sees that, okay, this guy has potential, and if we just pay him 10 lakhs per month, he can even we can benefit a lot more. They will immediately hire him and give him proper position so that he can implement things there. So that's another aspect why public sector entities are inefficient. Another thing is the number of people working. For example, let's say to do a work, you used to have 100 people, and now one new technology came. Let's say artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, machine learning. Those came. Those things came uh, after some time. Quantum computer will come. Quantum computer will come to do lots of calculation within seconds. So previously there used to be 100 people, and in today's condition, today's technology and everything, only 10 people is needed, right? But SBI or any public sector bank will keep employing these 100 people, keep employing these 100 people. So this is inefficient. So what will happen over the time, those banks will start to become inefficient, and it cannot compete with private sector, or actually the competition actually with other countries as well. So it cannot compete anywhere outside as well. So over the time, we know what happened to Air India, right? The same reason why it started to make loss. So over the time, they will all become inefficient, like Air India. They cannot even profit, and they started to make loss. And government, in that case, would have to provide money to keep this company afloat. That money will come from the public itself. So our citizen will pay so that the company can run. So that is not ideal. This is a waste of money, huge amount of money. So, so that is the idea. Idea is, before anything like this happens, because we know SBI or any other bank, it will never be efficient, because it will keep employing these 100 people where those people are not needed to do the same job. Okay. Okay, one argument is that, isn't it that a good thing? Because in one case we had 100 people working, another case 10 people working. So isn't it a good thing that now we have at least 100 people have jobs and all? We'll come to this question later as well. We'll see that this sort of pseudo employment, because this is pseudo employment, the type, the work that pseudo employment, because people are thinking they are doing job, but thing is that a machine can do that even more efficiently, and therefore there is not much value in the job that the person is doing. We need people do things that have value. It might sound very harsh, but this is very like uncomfortable truth. A lot of things that we do for our job can be automated, and there is not much requirement of doing those type of things anymore. We will give an example why, if we keep employing these 100 people, it is bad for everybody, also for those people as well. Let me give this example. Let me open a new open so let me open a new page. So how to give this example? One Perfect example is 100-day work scheme. 100-day work scheme. I call it, this is a crime against humanity. I'll not write it. So this is sort of a crime against humanity. Why? Because people don't have job. So our bureaucrats, government, their idea is, well, they have lots of funny ideas like that. So their idea is, well, why don't we give them some job? And one such job is to just work in the field, work in the field. Uh, let's say to move to let's say to create a pond, or in a rural sector, lots of such works. So now they are doing those manual works. Hmm, They are doing those manual works. Let's say they are now doing manual works. But well, apparently this would seem reasonable, and they get, at the end of the day, they get 250 rupees like that, so that they can survive. Apparently that will seem reasonable. Well, those people did not have any job. Now they are earning at least a little bit. But if we think carefully, if we just take one machine and employ only one person, the same amount of work can be done very, very efficiently. Maybe whatever 100 people are doing, maybe one or two people can do the same thing, and within 1 or 2 days, the machine will not take weeks or even months to complete the same task. So this is also a sort of pseudo employment. Pseudo employment. We will see any sort of physical, like things which need physical activity nowadays, in today's time, has very low productivity, and we can always have machine to do those things. Okay, so what could have been a better solution? Better solution would have been just to give money directly to these people, whatever the government is spending now, and ask them to do something productive, like study or build some skill, whatever government thinks would be suitable, but not waste their time on the field asking them to do this sort of manual work which does not add much value to anybody. So government is sort of destroying their lives, and preventing them to move upward. The same thing, because government cannot even think of giving people money for these things. Our bureaucrat, they cannot think of these things, and for them, rather people should work in sunlight and do those unproductive, meaningless work. But this is not for benefit of anybody. Everybody is suffering for this sort of scheme. Same thing in our banking sector also. Why? In public bank, if it employ, or railway, let's say, if it employ 100 people instead of 10, which is required, what is happening? Or any other government entity, let's say, let's say BSNL or anything. What is happening? It is becoming inefficient. It cannot compete. That is not only loss of this entity, it is loss of the entire economy. Because let's say this is our country, we have public and private sector. We always compete with other nations. They have their own industries, companies. So if their companies become efficient, they will capture the entire market. They can produce more, they can export more, and all our essential things uh, can be manufactured by their company, and we will be forced to buy them. Even if we just create a barrier, they will not export to us, but that does not help, because to grow we have to export as well to other nations. If we are not inefficient, nobody will buy our stuff. Why this is why being competitive is such a necessary thing. So to understand that, we have to know why we are poor, and how much poor we are. Some people often forget how much poor our country is. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's open another page. Open. Let's say how poor we are. Let's say how many countries are there. I don't know. 180, 180 around. Per capita, if we see per capita income, like average income, where are we? Let's say nominal. Where are we? 140. Around that place. What are our neighboring nations? Maybe Afghanistan, Afghanistan, Sudan, those countries which are devastated by war and all. They are a little bit below us, but we are around this position. So this is a matter of shame, of course. Uh, we need to move up. When a country has 1.35 billion people, it has a lot of advantages. Unfortunately, we we could not take advantage from this population and huge market. We could not move up so rapidly. So we are very poor. Very means very poor. Let's say how poor. Like, let's say our government is what it is now saying. It is saying, okay, we have to be $5 trillion economy, right? From where? 2.9 trillion. Let's say we become 5 trillion tomorrow. What will happen? We will remain poor. Poor means poor. Very poor. Let's say 10 trillion. 10 trillion. Then we will remain poor. Very poor. Maybe better than what we are now, but poor nonetheless. Let's say we become 20 trillion. What will happen? We will remain poor. Very poor. Of course, better than what we are now, but poor nonetheless. Let's say we become 30 trillion. Then we will remain poor. Maybe middle class, maybe poor. Very poor. Maybe better than 2.9 trillion, but poor nonetheless. Let's say we become 50 trillion. Now we are getting somewhere, right? Now we are getting somewhere. So, so that is how poor we are. That is how poor we are. So, given this thing, why this is why why this is the scenario? Let's discuss this one. So, what is happening? Let's say 100 years back. 100 years back. Let's say there were 2,000 people, and there were, let's say, four essential things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say food, clothes, your house, home, etc. And 4K were and 2,000 people were sufficient to produce these four things. Everybody was happy. And now what is happening? Now, after technological development, these four things can be now produced by, let's say, 200 people. Okay, these four things. What about the essential things of life? Food, etc. Clothes, roti, kapda, makan, and those things. Now, what will happen to these 1800 people who have nothing to do, who have nothing to do now? What will happen to them? Now, what other countries did, they added things to their essential commodities, right? Let's say on AC, on car, fridge, etc. Television, television, etc. In our previous example, let's say I was talking about car, our West Bengal, the bus and the AC and all, AC and all. So those are also essential. They added those things. For example, if railway could be efficient, it can install AC to every train. It can have automated doors, charger, nice toilets, etc. Lots of amenities. So those are also considered to be essential, and they added all those things. And now they have job for each people. Everybody is contributing little bit, but we don't have so much essential things. Probably we have added some electricity, etc. Mobile phone. Now everybody has mobile phone and etc. But we have failed to add a lot of things in our to our economy and essential items. It doesn't mean that people don't have these things. They have, they have in our country. Rich people have those things, but they were not sufficient to support that many jobs. And also, as we are not competitive, we mostly import things. So to become rich, we have to add essential things. For that, we need to grow our economy, and for that, we need to be competitive. We need to be very efficient. Our companies need to be very efficient so that we can consume little bit. Also, we can export to other nations. Initially, we will export and get little bit of money. That money will go into the pockets of people, and they will start spending. And that way, these things will start to be included in our essential commodities list. So that's the concept and idea. So that is why it is very, very essential that companies, public, public sector units, private, become efficient everywhere. But as it turned out, if a company remains in public sector, it cannot become efficient. So we need to transfer it to private sector. Why? Because then some other person, private person or entity, it will be the owner of that entity, and this person will always try to profit, and to make profit, he has to be innovative so that this company becomes efficient. And once it becomes efficient, it can compete with other companies in other nation. So we can win, because this is our entire team. It is not that it is public versus private, because government is in charge of entire economy. So this is our entire team. Our team can win. So this is the idea. Now there are few things, concerns, I should say, regarding this thing. Let's say open, don't save. Let's say first concern is, let's say, monopoly. What is that thing? And second concern is job loss. Both are very serious. Job loss. So first is monopoly. Let's talk about this one. We'll draw the same figure. So this is our public sector, and this is our private sector, and this is our government who is in charge of the entire thing. And all the companies in public sector are owned by government. It is owned by government. Owned by. But government regulates everything, even the private sector. So one concern is, if this company, let's say, go to private sector, and it has some owner now, new owner. Let's say one segment of our economy. Segment means one part, let's say telecom, any segment. Now, if this company becomes very large, and that person becomes the only person serving this sector, then it will be a monopoly, isn't it? Monopoly. So that means he can do whatever he wants to do. He can increase the price every now and then, and the people who are taking the service, they would be helpless. So that is one concern. It would seem it's not that it is not a valid concern. It is a valid concern that what will happen in that case if there is a monopoly and one company becomes very large, then there would be this problem. So our consumers might suffer if there is no competition and all. But think about this thing. Does it make sense? Yes, probably it makes sense, but not in the context of India. so, so there is two things. One is first, let's say give some name. Let's say this company name is A. When it transfer, A becomes big. Is that a problem? Of course, it is a problem. Problem to whom? Those like in West Bengal, there are leftists and all. For them, it is a problem because they cannot sleep at night if a company in private sector grow big. They lose their sleep. But no, probably no. It is not a problem. Rather, it is a very good thing if a company A becomes big. Why? Because as I was saying, our competition is with not to from. Of course, we had internal competition and all, but our main competition is this is our team, and our competition is with the outside world. And let's say this is another company from other nation, other country. Now, if this company has a lot of money, then it can invest in new things, new technologies. Let's say 5G. That is a perfect example. Artificial intelligence, quantum computer, those things, all those automation and etc. It can create new technology. Let's say electric vehicle, all those things which require lot of money, lot of financial resources. So if this company A becomes big, that's a good thing because now it can compete in these cutting edge sectors. Because now think about this, we don't have anything on 5G. Everything is being built by Huawei in China. Same thing also with Google and Amazon, Facebook. We don't have comparable companies which can compete on the same space. So now that Reliance has become a little bit bigger, it has started to do things on 5G. 5G, it will be able to compete with Huawei in near future. Yeah, at least we hope so. So if a company becomes big, that is a good thing. Now the second, if it creates a monopoly, it will seem that well that is a bad thing. Of course, it is a bad thing. It's not that it is a good thing, but how much problem it can create? That is the main question. How much problem it will create if a company has a monopoly over a sector? Now we have to think about the working procedure of our government. Our government, it is their habit to interfere in each and every problem of the private sector. So to do business in India, this person have to always listen to government. Government can make anything, any regulation, any law regarding the private sector. For example, so again, this is private, this is public. So if a company is large in private sector, it can divide it into two separate entities. It can do this. It can even take the half. It's not that this is not happened in our country. So our private airlines like Tata Airlines before it so during like when I think Indira Gandhi, it was nationalized. Our banks, there were private banks before as well, but those banks have been nationalized before. So if government sees that okay things are not working well, it can always do the reverse thing, right? So this problem, this monopoly problem, it was never a problem really in our country. Yeah, let's see what happens. If things goes bad, then government can go back and do whatever is necessary. Government has always power. It's not like again, it is not like household. The once you once the things that are outside, you don't have any control. Whatever is yours, you have exclusive right. Whatever is not yours, you don't have any right. It is not like that. Government can do anything it wants with a company in private sector. So those two things are not that of a big problem. Big problem is the job loss. So now let us discuss this one. Okay. So job loss. This is a very important aspect. Job loss. So what was the problem? So 100 people are employed now to do something which can be done with 10 people. It is not only the problem in public sector. This problem is there everywhere in our country. For example, let's say our agriculture. 50% people are employed. They produce only 15%. That's bad, right? So very inefficient. So this problem is there always, and the result is that we are not efficient. Not in any sector, we are not efficient at all. We are not efficient at all. So why this is the problem? Because as I was discussing before, something that example like whatever was produced by 100 people 100 years back, now it can be done by 10 people. So what changed actually? The change is that before people used to do manual labor, and now things have changed. Now there is one machine which can do the same thing a lot more efficiently. Now that is a serious concern. If if now 10 people can do the work of 100 people, then it's a real problem. What will these 90 people will go? Where they will go? How they will survive? How like what are the things that they can do? Now, if we think about this might seem very scary. But as I was saying, we failed to add new things in our essential list. That is one problem. But people might ask, okay, that might also, those essential things, after certain point, people will start to become efficient there as well. So where is the end? Yeah, the answer is that there is no end. This will go on. We'll keep adding things. Okay, keep adding things. And good thing is that we can always compete with machine, because if we think, let's say this is we, this is a human, right? This is human. It's brain, brain plus, let's say it's all these sensory organs, plus its muscles and etc. The combined these things, this is a very efficient machine, right? And compared to this one, this dumb machine is nothing, right? So we can always compete with this sort of dumb machine, because we are a much superior machine. Our humans are much superior. To come to this from where we are today, we need another probably 300, 400 years. So that's a good thing. Hmm. That's a very good thing, because we are even much more superior than whatever the current technology we have now. But then question is why? Then the question becomes how to use this superior machine to do something, right? So we have to just add skill. That's only thing we have to do. But if we don't have any skill, then we will be forced to do manual labor, and we cannot compete with machine on that front, because machines are much more efficient than us. So doing manual labor, we cannot progress at all. So we have to add skills so that we can do things that machines cannot do. Hmm? So even here now in public sector, the same thing. If we employ 100 people instead of 10, we are doing a very bad thing. Not only to them only, but for all of us. Everybody is suffering due to this, because it is not competitive now, the entity. So we have to add skill to people so that we can compete with machines. Hmm. In that aspect, I'll just add what type of industries are coming. Hmm. So let's say what will happen in future. Let's say this is our Earth. Let's say this is Mars. So in future, that is the future. Actually, all industries will go there. They will pollute there, and there will be companies who will send people there to work in those factories. Right? Of course, there would be high skill job as well. For example, scientists, engineers, etc. But the labor would be required as well in that. So that is how future will look like. Now the question is, are we prepared to take part in that type of industry? Are we? How much of this sort of industry we can capture, which would be our future, because that type of things will come. I don't know what else will come in the future, but a lot of things will change. Because why we don't see that change? Because from one day to another, the change is very less. uh, so we sleep at night, we forget again the next day, almost no change. So we often fail to comprehend how quickly we are changing. Hmm? Let's say this is you. Let's say this is your son or daughter. Let's say this is your father, and let's say this is your grandfather. So this is your grandpa. This is your father. This is you, and this is your son. Let's imagine so the thing is that your father and your grandfather, they lived almost same type of life, but your life has changed a lot. Hmm. Let's imagine this thing. Let's say one fine morning, when your father was a child, so somebody told him that, well, if your grandma does not give list to your grandpa, it's okay. Your grandpa will go to market, and from there he can take some pictures, send it back, and your grandma can choose from those pictures. People would have thought that person who is saying this a mad person, crazy person. But that same thing does not seem so crazy to you, like you, because you are seeing this sort of thing in your day-to-day life. So things have changed. Things changed quite a lot. Hmm. It was unimaginable that you will there won't be uh, like your voices will will go by the air and somebody else will listen to it and far away, or you can apply to a job from your home using this internet. Those things were almost impossible. People could not uh, even imagine those things back in old days. But now things have already changed a lot. But in future is very uncertain, and things will change very rapidly. And we all don't know what would be those industries that are coming. But that's a good thing, because when we don't know what type of industries are coming, then our government is little bit dumb. So government cannot create rules for those industries. And as long as government does not know about the industry, we are safe, because then the industry can flourish and all. As soon as the government or our bureaucrats get to find out that, well, there is one industry is coming, they will start to create laws and regulation, and they will make sure that that industry does not flourish in our country. Example is that, let's say self-driving car. As our ministers and our bureaucrats have learned that this technology is coming, they are doing everything they can to stop it, and that is counterproductive, right? Because that will make all our industries inefficient, and we cannot compete with outside. So that is that is the idea. So if we don't know what will happen in future, one fine morning government will wake up and see, okay, there are industries flourishing, like software. Back then, uh, back then government didn't have an idea what is this thing. They didn't even believe that somebody can write a code and earn money. So they were, this is not industry. But then, as there were not much rules and regulations, the software, like IT industry started to flourish, and it become where it is now. Like, so now as we don't know what will happen in future, and things might be good because government might not know as well. So there would be those type of industries. But what we have to do, we have to be prepared, at least, so that we can employ the people on these future things. For that, we need to add skill. Hmm. And if we just waste people's time in 100-day work scheme, that thing is not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. So why why did I started saying these things? Just to underscore one thing, that privatization is actually a good thing. But thing is that we should not do it half-heartedly. We have to be prepared. We uh, have to at least make sure that we understand what is coming, and we have to make sure, at least our government has to make sure that the people who would be laid off, they are skilled properly, adequately, so that they can compete in future. They have a job. So uh, so that is the end of this video. One I'll just add one small thing. One small thing. So a lot of people prepare for government jobs. A lot of people prepare government jobs in our country. They will be very upset when they will learn that there won't be any not much government like public sector companies in our country anymore. Everything would be privatized. But thing is that government should start thinking like this, because a lot of people can want to do work in government sector, public sector for the government. They want because there are security and etc. So let's say government is paying 30,000 to some people, some person. Now the question is whether this is fair. Nah. Why? Because if government wants, it can hire the same skill with much less money. It can do this because a lot of people are there who would be willing to take the same job, do the same work with a lot less money. Hmm? So one thing what government can do is like this. Let's say recruit 5 people for every job. Hmm. Make sure that 5 people qualify, and they do a blind bidding. Let's say you want to do job, tell us how much you are going to cost. So when there is bidding, it's like this bidding in infrastructure sector. Whoever gives less bidding gets the job. In that way, government can save a lot of money, and also people's our people want to do government job nowadays. They will be much less interested in those type of scenario. When they had to give bidding, they will find out okay there are very less pay, and that should be the ideal case because that is the people's money, and government should spend as less as it can on manpower so that it can provide service to people. That is one thing. And second thing, government, that is first thing. Second thing, what government can do, it can make sure that people have experience in private sector before they can apply to government jobs. That's a very important step. If government does that, then there would be all of a sudden a rush to get expertise in private sector before applying to government jobs, because government jobs has always its own perks. For example, nobody can fire a government employee or an employee working in public sector. So those kind of security are there. So people always want to do those jobs. So if they want to do, make sure that they work in private sector first, well, few years like 3 years or 4 years experience or 5 years experience. Then allow them to sit for the exam and recruit from that pool. That will make sure that there is a rush in private sector jobs. So private sector can hire with lot less money, and that will create efficiency in our companies. Not efficiency in terms of in terms of cost. So that is another thing that the government might think. So that is the end of this video. Thank you.